My name is Mahnoor. I'm a therapist here at Shift, and I specialize in helping individuals navigate with relationships and communication-related concerns. I just want to let you guys know that this webinar will be recorded, so if you want to keep your camera off, that's totally fine. The chat box will not be visible though, so please feel free to contribute and connect through there. If you have any questions or comments throughout, just send us a message. So, sorry. Today our agenda will be to kind of go over what languages are, understand the different types, same with conflict languages, and then we'll finally go into how to actually implement this understanding into our relationship and how to improve our relationship through there. And after each part, we're going to have a little discussion where you can ask anything you want. And in our final discussion as well, you can ask for some personalized guidance if you'd like. You can ask as many questions as you want. For the people asking in the chat box, you can change your name if you want to keep it anonymous, but either way, it's not going to be recorded. Your name's in the webinar, so whatever you send will be kept confidential there. Okay, so what are you going to learn and take away from all of this today? So understanding love and conflict languages in a relationship can really strengthen it by enhancing empathy and connection. And this is going to empower you to communicate effectively, show love in ways that resonate with your partner, and navigate conflicts with mutual understanding and respect. And this is all ultimately going to really strengthen your bond. So let's get into it then. Love languages. So love languages are the different ways in which people express and appreciate receiving love and affection. And this concept was first introduced by Dr. Gary Chapman in his book, The 5 Love Languages. So each person tends to have a primary love language, but they can also appreciate and value other love languages to some degree as well. And understanding and expressing love in someone, especially your partner's love language, can really enhance that emotional connection and intimacy in your relationship. So the 5 different types of love languages, which I'm sure some of you are aware of, but it might be new for everyone else. So the first one would be words of affirmation. Then we have acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. So starting off with words of affirmation. This involves expressing love, appreciation, and support for your partner through spoken or written words. You want to use positive and uplifting language to really validate, compliment, and encourage your partner. And this is even more meaningful when you really personalize it to their specific abilities and achievements that you really appreciate. And this can help boost your partner's confidence, strengthen your relationship, and provide your partner with emotional reassurance. Yeah, exactly. Like saying I love you after conversations, that shows, you're using your words to express your affection to them. So some other examples are, telling them how great they are, how lucky and thankful you are for them, and how you appreciate the things that they do for you. Does anyone else have any other examples maybe that you can think of? You can unmute yourself and come off and just say it, or you can even type it in the chat. Anything for words of affirmation, anyone? You want to type it? I'll give a few minutes. I appreciate you, exactly. Anything else? Anyone want to come off mute at all? Suggest anything? Let's see. Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, it depends, based on the person. We can't really generalize based on the whole culture, but it does depend on the person when it comes down to it. Yeah, you make my day better. I'm so happy to see you. These are great things by, when you say this to your partner, they really feel that love which you might be showing them. But if the words of affirmation is their love language, then they sometimes really need to hear that to feel it. Shivanshi, you've raised your hand. Why don't you come off mute?
I think something that works a lot for me is also when we have some sort of conflict, we use words of affirmation after during the repair period to just remind each other what the other person did. That was super helpful in getting us back in our space. So just, something that a person said while one of us was spiraling or operating out of our space, so sort of recognizing what the other person did to get us back in that sort of team mindset is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. That's so important. And that's great that, you tend to do that even after conflicts, because it helps, encourage you, for future conflicts or any concerns that pop up, then you know that that person appreciates when you do a certain thing. So it'll encourage you to do it more. That's a great example. Anything else anyone wants to add before we go on to the next one? Okay. Next, we have acts of service. And this involves really showing your love through helpful and caring actions or gestures. So these gestures can include doing thoughtful tasks for your partner to kind of make things easier and more enjoyable for them. And doing these kind of activities, these tasks for your partner shows the consideration, thoughtfulness, and a real willingness to support them in practical ways, which is ultimately really going to improve your bond. And some examples of this can be helping them out with chores, helping them relax by offering a massage or a foot rub, or even cooking and planning something special to make for them. Anyone have any examples of this? Any services that you could do to show that love to your partner? And again, you can come off mute or you can type it in the chat, whatever you're more comfortable with. Cooking for your partner. Yeah, that's a great one. Cooking is coming up a lot. Packing lunch for work as well. Exactly. That's taking away that stress for them. And I'm sure when they're at work eating that, they really, think about you and appreciate that. Walking the dog for them, leaving a note. These are all amazing things. Your partner takes care of your car needs. Yeah, that's, amazing, because especially when what your partner struggles with something which you don't mind doing, really stepping up and doing that service for them when it's not going to bother you so much, but it'll make their life a lot easier. That really shows them that care and that thoughtfulness. Affection, like a hug. Yeah, it could count. A hug does get a bit tricky because it might fall into physical touch, which we'll get into, but that's a good one. Making a cup of coffee when they're busy at work. Yes, who doesn't need that magical cup of coffee to appear when you're stuck doing some work? Doing laundry, taking out the trash. Exactly. These are, great examples of little acts of service we can do to just make life easier for them and show that. Okay, so let's go on to the next one then. Receiving gifts. So this is also sometimes known as gift giving, but we're taking it as how people want to receive that love. So this involves, wanting to receive that love through tangible, thoughtful, and meaningful presents. And remember, though, this isn't about buying the most expensive or the most beautiful gift. It's really about that sentiment behind it. It shows your partner that you paid attention to their interests and spent time and effort looking for something meaningful for them. So, even if you might not feel that that's important to you, that gift, it shows your partner that they're really appreciated, they're understood and remembered. And examples of this can be, getting something useful that they can use for their hobbies or interests, getting them something that they've been wanting or needing for a while, or even just surprising them with, random flowers or a snack or something small and a little love letter. So again, it doesn't really matter how big or expensive it is. It's just that you thought of them while you were getting it. Any examples of this? What if it's a gift that they don't like? Well, at the end of the day, if you spend that time thinking about them and picking out something meaningful for them, I'm sure they would, appreciate that sentiment more than what the actual gift even is. Your partner will buy you snacks. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you know exactly what they like, what they need, that makes that gift giving all the more special. Anything else? So many gifts that you could give. It doesn't even have to buy a burger. Yeah. And, what could you do that maybe isn't so expensive? When it comes to gift giving, we think we have to spend a lot of money and, buy these big things to make our partner happy. But can anyone think of any little things that you can spend little to no money? Yeah, making a card, a handmade, you don't even need to go buy one, making a handmade card, writing a little note to, and you can even at times mix some of the love languages together. You can give them a gift with a card, showing that those words of affirmation as well. Baking and delivering, yeah, gift a whole house, if only. But even when you're on a walkway, when you see those single roses at the grocery store or someone selling them on the street, it's just a few dollars, but that just because the random flower you're getting your partner that because you just thought of them when you saw that shows a lot of sentiment. A personal bookmark, that's a really sweet one. If they love reading, every time they're going through that activity that they enjoy, they're going to be thinking of you as well. Amazing. Those are some great suggestions. If you have anything, feel free to continue to pop them in and we'll go on to the next one if not. So then we have quality time, which includes showing love through dedicated and undivided attention, meaningful interactions, and shared experiences. So this means being fully present and engaged with your partner, and which is hard nowadays, but you don't want to have any distractions like your phone or doing like any work-related tasks, emails, things like that. You just want to actively spend time doing things together to create some lasting memories. And as the name suggests, this is more about the quality than the quantity. It's about the depth and the value of that time that really will enhance that emotional intimacy and connection. So some examples of this are having a distraction-free evening with each other, going on a trip or a special date night to create some memories, or even engaging in a workshop to learn and bond over shared interests. That's creating some lasting memories, and you guys are having that time together. Anything else anyone can think of? There were a lot of quality time, love languages at the start we were talking about. What do you guys, either do or enjoy when your partner does to spend quality time together? Yeah, you're right. It is hard nowadays, especially when you're busy with jobs, but taking out that little time for your partner, that really shows them that they're appreciated and a priority. Date night, yeah, it's so important. Conversations during a car ride, exactly. You're not taking out any time of your day, or you have to go into that car ride, but making them some meaningful conversations, that would be great. Going to a concert, yeah. That's a big disconnect. Why is that? If you want to come off mute and discuss that, is it because maybe you're not talking actively during the concert and just spending time listening? Either way, it's about that emotional connection that you guys are building together, and so it depends.
That was me. Yeah, that's actually a big one between us because I really love going to concerts. I'm one that's adventurous. I'll go to a concert even if I don't necessarily even know the musician, but my partner, it's just not their thing. And so that's like a really huge thing because I'll buy tickets for concerts, get really excited, and then he's not excited or doesn't even want to go. And I've like even lost money on tickets because I couldn't resell them because I thought I was doing it and creating this, night out together and all that. And then it backfired on me. So, and I don't seem to learn my lesson.
Well, no, but as we'll kind of discuss further in a bit, the importance is that that discussion that you guys have. So talking to him about why you really appreciate that and want to go there to spend that quality time. And sometimes, as you said, you're buying the tickets because you appreciate that, but our partners might not appreciate that as much because they might have a different love language or a different interest. So when you start talking about these languages and building that, understanding with each other, then you will be more prone to doing those things for each other. You're expressing love in the ways he would want to receive it. And in return, he might want to, buy some tickets, take you to a concert sometimes. But it's about finding that balance, which we'll get to in a bit. What else? Cooking together. Yeah, that's, spending some great quality time, watching Netflix together, evening walks, end of evening debrief. Yeah, after a long, hard day at work, you really need to just, talk about things together. That's so great to de-stress and, understand that you have that partner there for you. Intentionally talking about your days, yes. Walking to the gym together, exactly. And again, engaging in meaningful conversation while you're doing that. Taking classes and courses together. Great. How often does this quality time have to be? How many times per week? So there's no, limits or, quantity when it comes to this stuff. As we mentioned, it's not about the quantity at all. It's really about the quality. So if you're spending, 1 hour of that great connection a week, then, that might be enough, but it depends person to person. There's no, specific answers, set rules. It depends on your partner and on your relationship. Great. So on to the last one then, physical touch. And this is where love and appreciation is displayed through physical contact, through gestures such as hugs, kisses, cuddles, or hand-holding. And this uses touch and physical proximity to convey love, support, security, and comfort, which is going to really enhance that emotional intimacy. So whether this touch is sexual or non-sexual, its importance lies in the emotional connection that it creates. But you have to remember to, respect your partner's boundaries, their preferences when it comes to physical touch. And a lot of the languages, you have to engage in that open discussion to really understand what it is that your partner wants. And so examples of this can be holding hands or cuddling when you're together, embracing each other when sharing moments of vulnerability, and, even giving a little goodbye hug or kiss. What about anything else? Any examples you can think of? Again, just shout it out or type it in chat.
Being within eye contact if you're in a room full of people.
That's great. And, that without that touch, it's, kind of showing that intimacy. So, while it might not be exactly fitting into physical touch, it's creating those same feelings of security and safety, that they're there, that their eyes are on you, they're interested in you, and that intimacy is being created. Yeah, security. Aggressive love. Yeah, consent is important. Understanding their boundaries, what they're okay with, their preferences, that's really important before, just acting on something, considering their past experiences, any struggles they've had, it's important to keep all of that into account. A high five, yeah. Something so simple, but that shows, we're a team, we're in this together, and I'm here for you. That's a great one. Anything else anyone wants to quickly add before we go on to the next? Maybe even giving them a nice massage, that's also an act of service, but that physical touch, playing with their hair, giving them a massage, things like that, using that touch to make them feel good, in whatever way that is. Great. So now that we know all of this, what love languages are, how can we, find out what yours and your partner's is? So firstly, try to familiarize yourself with what each one is. Then you can also, maybe think about past experiences and moments where you felt loved and appreciated, and think about which language was in play, why you felt loved in that moment. And try to also think about how you express your love to your partner. Sometimes this is the way that we want to be loved. We're showing love. For example, with the tickets, we're showing, taking our time, trying to show them that love in that way, but it might not be their language. That might be our language, which is what's creating that disconnect and misunderstanding. And you can also explore and try the different types with your partner and make notes of which ones you both resonate with. If you want to really get into it, doing a little trial and error. And another quick and easy way is to take an online quiz, and the link is here below. And that really breaks down the percentages of how much you value each language. So as we discussed before, you might have a primary, and then, they might all be ranked with different percentages of how much you appreciate that. It's been interesting to learn how to connect the two. Yeah, so oftentimes, we do have different love languages with our partners, but that's okay. That doesn't have to be a problem in relationships at all. It's just about understanding each other's language and creating that connect. And overall, it's important to remember a few things. You want to take time to really learn and communicate each other's language to ensure that your emotional needs are being met. The key takeaway here is that you want to really express love in your partner's preferred language, as we discussed, which is going to make them feel valued and appreciated. And a common misunderstanding is when we express that love in our own preferred language, and our partner might not resonate with that. And you also want to avoid the assumption that your partner's love language is the same as yours, or that there's a correct one, making our partner feel guilty that they have a different one. That, we need to understand and respect those differences. And also remember that love languages can change over time as we grow, as we, change in our preferences. Our love languages can change as well. So you have to continue to have that open discussion to really talk about how you're feeling, what you're interested in nowadays, and, be open to adapting. So that's that for love languages for now. Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything we just discussed? Anything you might want to add? Again, feel free to come off mute or just type it in chat. Leaving love on the table, not noticed. Yeah, exactly. Denise, that's a great point, that sometimes, we are expressing our love to our partner, and we're putting in all that effort, but it's not being noticed. It's not being understood. So really understanding how we express our love, and how we and our partners want that love to be expressed to us. That's really important, and in making just a few minor changes, which is really going to change that appreciation we have for the love that we're receiving every day. Does anyone have any other questions maybe at all about love languages? It's important that we're aware of our partner's love language and making effort to express it. Exactly. That's totally right. Sorry that I'm just replying to a message. For those of you who can't see, it was a direct message. And we're just talking about how, it's important to make that effort to express it how they want. That's showing that consideration again, that we do care about their specific feelings. Great. Anyone, anything else? Any questions? No? Okay. Moving on then to conflict languages, which are a bit different. So conflict languages are the different communication styles or patterns that we use during arguments. So this can stem from a combination of things, including your upbringing, past experiences, cultural influences, communication skills, or just preferred patterns even. And these are not fixed traits. You may use you may use different styles, or even a combination of styles, depending on the situation and your emotional state in that moment. But understanding and navigating the different conflict languages can really lead to a healthier and more effective conflict resolution in relationships, because as we're going to learn soon, that understanding for each other is really important through that conflict. So here are the 5 conflict languages. That they are avoidance, aggression, passiveness, passive aggression, and assertiveness. When I hear conflict languages in my mind, I see couples doing fights, heavy arguments, yelling. Yeah, so that's a specific type of conflict language, right? And we're just that's actually here, aggression. So, oh, sorry, my bad. That's where we're just gonna come back to aggression. We're gonna start with avoidance. So this is a pattern of dealing with disagreements or conflicts by withdrawing and suppressing our emotions to avoid confrontation or difficult conversations. So avoidance can stem from a fear of conflict, a desire to maintain harmony, or a belief that avoiding conflict is going to prevent further problems. And while this may provide short-term relief, it can lead to, unresolved problems and tensions in the long run. And some examples of this are bottling up and not expressing your emotions, shutting down and refusing to communicate when conflict arises, and deflecting or distracting or even spending time away to kind of avoid that deep discussion. Anyone have any examples of avoidance? Does anyone maybe, tend to use this style when it comes to those difficult conversations and heated arguments? I'd love to hear what anyone has to say. Yeah, apparently I avoid things a lot. Why do you say that? Do you see it yourself? What do you see to make you feel that that's what you do? Would stepping away to collect my thoughts be considered as avoidance? So, that's a really good question. While, in the moment we can get really heated and sometimes, right away expressing ourselves or talking through that situation can be difficult. So if you need a moment to kind of, breathe, gather your thoughts, control that anger, then that's okay. If, it's about when you come back to dealing with that conflict, to dealing with that argument, how you're handling it then. So, if you're coming back and trying to resolve things, then that's not avoidance. Avoidance would be, stepping away and just leaving the house, to not talk about it, distracting yourself, maybe starting cooking or cleaning just so you don't want to, do that. Stonewalling, yeah. So, trying to block out anything that they're saying, not respecting your partner's input, for sure. What if our response makes things worse? Yeah, that's a good question. So, that is, why some people do tend to be avoidant, because we're afraid that if we do get into it, things are going to become much worse. But when we, tend to leave things unsaid, unresolved, then they are already staying the same or getting worse. If you're not working on them, it's not gonna, nothing is gonna change. So while you may want to, take that time out, as I mentioned, and take a minute to cool off, to gather your thoughts, when you come back to it, whether that's in a few minutes, in a few hours, it's important to then, have that open discussion. What else? What about when someone gaslights you? So we'll come to that's not avoidance, but it's our next one that we're just going to go through. That went so hard, so bad, fast. How would they prevent that? So if you're getting really, heated up after a conversation, you might want to, take a little moment to breathe, to focus on that breathing, do some, mindfulness and meditation, some strategies like that to help you, control those emotions. So when you come back to it, you can have that conversation. So then we have aggression. So this includes expressing our frustrations, anger, or dissatisfaction in a forceful, hostile, or confrontational manner. And this can include aggressive behaviors such as yelling, insulting, threatening, or even physical aggression, which is never okay. And aggression can stem from a variety of factors, including unresolved anger, poor communication skills, or a desire to assert dominance and control during conflicts. And examples of this can include intimidation, shouting, slamming doors or throwing things, manipulation, such as, gaslighting, blackmailing, things like that, using personal attacks, bringing up things that are going to hurt your partner, saying rude things like that, and using aggressive body language to kind of, intimidate them, to make them feel like, you're the one in control. Does anyone have any examples of this? Do you feel like you or your partner ever tend to get aggressive following arguments? Anyone at all? What else could be, aggression? Doesn't have to be a physical aggression. It could be, emotionally, using negative words, things like that. Yeah, you're right. It can damage things because the way that you're communicating your frustrations and the way your partner will take that, it gets really negative. So sometimes your point is forgotten, and just that the aggression, the tone, and that is what they're taking in. Over talking over someone to get your point across. Exactly, that's a great one. You're not respecting your partner's feelings and perspectives. You're just trying to assert dominance. If the partner calls you a name, that is gaslighting, or could it be true? Mine threatens to tell my mother. Yeah, so threatening, gaslighting, things like that, that's all aggression, and that comes from when you're not able to have an open discussion with your partner and tell them how you're feeling, what you're struggling with. Then it comes to using those threats to kind of get your point across, which isn't always the healthiest in helping relationships. Yeah, exactly. When we think of aggression, we think violence, and while physical aggression and physical violence is what we initially think of, these kind of manipulative behaviors are very aggressive. Talking down and insulting your partner's family members, insulting or talking down your partner or anyone that they care about, anything that saying is going to hurt your partner, when you're doing that on purpose, that shows that aggression. What about when your partner says he reacted aggressive because you drive him nuts and never apologize? So again, it's not about what you're doing to make them aggressive, right? You're having that conflict, that conversation. It depends also, how you're going about it. But when they're reacting aggressively, that's the conflict language that they tend to use. And you can't blame that on someone else. You can't say that you are the reason I use this conflict language, because that comes internally. Became more aggressive. Yeah, so that sometimes when you're using aggression and that your partner is not taking what you're saying too hard, because the words are being lost in the way that you're communicating, then it can lead to more aggression, to more angry that their point isn't getting across. So you tend to use more of these aggressive behaviors to make them see what you're trying to say. Yeah. And you're right. You're where you said that your parents would come into your room and get all angry and shouting. And sometimes when we go through experiences like these, when we grow up in situations like that, either we can also tend to use that same style, or it pushes us away from that. So that's really important to, consider when thinking about conflict languages. So let's go to the next one then. Then we have passiveness, and this is where people tend to shy away from verbally addressing and expressing their needs or concerns or opinions during conflicts. And this involves being reluctant to assert yourself, to take a stand, which can often lead to internal frustration, unresolved issues because of that lack of open communication. And this can stem from a fear of confrontation, wanting to avoid discomfort, or believing that speaking up will lead to things getting worse. So you might be thinking, this is kind of similar to avoidance, but the main difference there is that avoidance is where you actively want to avoid those situations of conflict and disagreements, whereas passiveness is due to a lack of assertiveness and a lack of, knowing how to express your thoughts and needs effectively. So examples of this can be agreeing with your partner, even though you have a different opinion, or ignoring or downplaying your own emotions and concerns, or even, distancing yourself to avoid that conflict and maintain a sense of peace. So does anyone have any examples of this maybe? Or any, even examples of when you or your partner might have used this? How do you think we can be passive? Anyone at all? Any examples? I tend to agree with my partner to avoid conflict. Exactly. Thinking that if we don't speak up, at least it's not gonna, create a big fight. We can just suppress our feelings, but then, often then we have those unresolved feelings left in us, and that can come out through frustration in other ways. Yeah, assuming you'll come back to the conversation, but then, do you come back to that conversation? Are you able to openly express your feelings? My partner agreed with me for a decision, and later on, when it was a bad decision, he blamed me. Yeah, that's hard, because when you're making decisions, especially in life, we don't have that surety that anything's going to work out. Everything is, all these decisions we have that hope that things do work out. So, it's not fair to put that blame on either person if it doesn't end up working out as you hoped. Keeping distance and not building a relationship because it feels like you're stepping on a minefield. Yeah. You don't know when or what sets that person off. Exactly. And in that, exactly as you said, not building that relationship, not strengthening it, because you're not able to speak your mind, express your feelings. And so you have to be distant and passive. When you leave your partner on red, yeah. Maybe because you're afraid that if I say anything, it'll make them more angry. Saying sorry for the sake of ending a conversation, but not, actually believing that, or not actually wanting to say sorry, not changing. That's a really great example. Yeah, not answering calls or messages, for sure. Reverting to passiveness when you feel like the argument isn't going anywhere. That's a great, example of when people might tend to use passiveness. And as, we kind of mentioned at the start, we might have a specific conflict language which we tend to use, but in different emotional states, different situations, we can use different styles. So that's a great example for when we could do that. How do we overcome the fear of sharing our thoughts? We're just going to get into that in a minute. But the key is to just, try to have that open communication and consideration. And I'll just get into how to implement this understanding in order to have that. So then we have passive aggression, which is a mixture of the last two that we just covered. And this includes expressing feelings and frustrations indirectly and subtly rather than directly addressing that issue. And this involves behavior and communication that appears passive or non-confrontational on the surface, but it carries underlying tones of aggression and hostility, which can, often lead to confusion and misunderstandings. So this can come from a lack of effective communication skills, wanting to pretend that things are fine to just keep things going well, or wanting to express dissatisfaction indirectly so your partner can acknowledge and ask you about it. And some examples of this could be making sarcastic, snide, or indirect comments, forgetting or neglecting things that your partner needs, or giving them the silent treatment and being distant to really express that frustration, because that's gonna really make them ask you what's wrong or get upset. What about anything else for passive aggression? This is, something that people use in different areas of life as well. But when it comes to relationship, how else do you think, you could be passive aggressive with a partner? Any examples at all? Can come when someone feels unheard or not taken seriously because conversations have been exhausted. Yeah, that is something that can lead to that. I do laundry and throw his phone on the floor next to his side of the bed. Yeah, is that because, you don't want to give him that phone? He has to put in more effort to go get it. Talking about issues in front of others. Yeah, not expressing to them that you have that problem, but indirectly making comments about it or talking to others about it, even in front of them to, bring it up. Sarcasm, tone of voice. Yeah, making jokes, but that carry that meaning of frustration in them. Ignoring them and not saying exactly what you mean. Yeah. Make food for the whole family but not serve him. Yeah, exactly. That's showing that I am mad at you, but I'm not going to tell you why, but things aren't good. So these are some great examples. And finally, we have assertiveness. And this is where individuals express their needs, boundaries, and concerns in a direct, respectful, and confident manner. It involves clearly expressing your feelings and expectations while also actively listening to and respecting your partner's perspective. So unlike in love languages, where no language is really better, this is the most productive conflict language to use, as it allows for that open communication, problem solving, and mutual understanding in conflicts. And examples of this are expressing your feelings openly, setting and maintaining boundaries, what you're okay with, what you're not going to accept, communicating respectfully. We hear assertiveness and we think we have to be, strict, but it's about, getting our point across in a respectful manner while also listening to our partner, not blaming and attacking them, and coming up with solutions to meet each other in the middle. That's also, really important. So anyone have examples of this? How do you approach assertiveness while setting boundaries without defaulting to passiveness or avoidance when a partner brings up the idea that without a nudge, nothing will change? So when you're, setting those boundaries, sometimes it's good to have these conversations when we're not having an argument in that moment. So, expressing to them what hurts us during arguments, what they can say that, resonates with us negatively, asking them the same. When it comes to being assertive, we want to express our feelings while also, listening to theirs. And so that's, as we have here, you want to express your feelings and need, sorry guys, little technical troubles. Yeah, so despite what your conflict language is, it can be beneficial to incorporate some aspects of assertiveness, which will help you get your feelings across in a healthy and open manner to ensure that there's no underlying unresolved concerns lingering on. So to be assertive, you want to express your thoughts and feelings clearly and respectfully while also considering their perspectives and their rights. So what you can do to do this is use I statements. So, saying that I feel like this isn't good, or I feel hurt when you say that, instead of using statements that feel like attacks by saying that you always do this or you don't know anything. Because when you say things like that, your partner is going to be more focused on hearing, how you're saying the thing and how you're attacking them than what you actually have to say. That's where we become defensive. So this is important to feel really truly heard and to find solutions that benefit you both. And if you and your partner do struggle with assertiveness, think about and talk about why. Try to create that space, an open and safe space for continuous communication and expression. So, if that's something that you both are struggling to do, and you're, tending to use the other conflict languages, both of you together, and that's making things worse, then, trying to ask them that how can we change these things? Why do we try to use that conflict language? And to discover your conflict languages, again, you want to get a good understanding of what each one is, how it's presented, and try reflecting on past arguments where you and your partner have reacted differently to the conflict. Think about which languages were being used, or even make a mental note of how you tend to feel and what you tend to do following an argument. And finally, you want to, talk to them, ask your partner and discuss what you both think the other tends to do during conflicts. And finally, for conflict languages, it's important to remember that they are learned communication patterns and they can be influenced by various factors. The key here is that you want to practice active listening and empathy to better understand each other's perspectives and communication styles, and recognize why you use a specific language. Get into why, you might be passive or aggressive. And this is the key to increase that understanding and tolerance during conflicts. When, we hear that aggression or passive aggression, it's easy to get, pissed off. But when you understand, okay, this is what they've been taught, this is how they grew up. When you understand why they use a specific language, you have more empathy for that. So you want to really allow each other to express and be understood. And think about how your own preferred conflict language impacts your relationship. Does it lead to a positive or negative result? And if it's negative, with both your conflict languages, think about, what you could do to that. And by being open to learning and adapting your conflict language based on the needs of your relationship and your preferences of your partner, this can really improve that conflict resolution. So does anyone have any questions? We're running a bit behind on time. I just have 10 minutes left, but I'm just gonna look through the chat real quick. How do we get here when we're both too stubborn? So, just sitting down and talking to each other and telling yourselves that, we have to get over our ego and stubbornness to work together. And, at the end of the day, you're a team, you want to achieve the same things at the end of the day, so discussing what that even is. What does your partner want to achieve from that relationship? And if your ego or that stubbornness to stick to a specific language and not have open conversation through that, if that's getting in your way, then, really sitting and talking about why that is. I find it interesting that our parents' conflict, that we model our parents' conflict language. Exactly, that's what we grow up seeing and learning. So sometimes the way our parents talk to each other or to us, that's what we learn. And I'm just going to quickly go to the next slide. Sorry, we're just running a bit behind on time. So now that we know all of this, what can we do? First of all, you want to identify and communicate your and your partner's love languages, and recognize and understand each other's conflict languages. in order to do this and to really understand each other's feelings and needs, you have to practice active listening and have open and honest communication. You should also, try to promote compromise and flexibility and empathy in your relationship to find solutions that can make you both happy. When we think about it, sometimes we think about what's going to make us happy, but what's going to take you forward as a team. And it's also important to, oh, sorry, I was on the wrong slide the whole time. But yeah, it's also important to keep learning and adapting as your relationship grows, staying open to talking about each other's needs and changing preferences over time. So how can this help my relationship? First of all, when you learn what love languages your partner needs or why they use a specific conflict language, you're enhancing your understanding of each other. This is also going to reduce misunderstandings by creating clarity and awareness of each other's communication styles and their affection preferences. And you should when you take out time to, discuss each other's needs, preferences, and perspectives, you're creating a supportive space for continued communication. So, as some people were asking in the chat, that how can we work on our communication skills and our love languages when you have this open discussion with your partner about what they really need, why they do a specific thing, then you're increasing that understanding, that empathy, which is going to continue to allow you both to be able to talk to each other. And recognizing and adapting to each other's love and conflict languages promotes flexibility, compromise, and a willingness to mutually meet each other's needs. Once you do this, and if it works well, then that's going to encourage you to keep doing that. And this is also going to help you navigate disagreements with more empathy and respect, which is going to help you find those mutually benefiting results. So understanding why your partner resonates with a specific language can also increase that tolerance and empathy. When you see each other put in effort to really understand and meet each other's needs, this is going to really increase your appreciation for each other, that compassion and emotional intimacy. And finally, when both partners feel understood, valued, and supported through all of this, your overall connection and relationship satisfaction is going to increase. So now coming to really practically implementing this understanding. First of all, the important thing to remember is that it takes ongoing effort and a genuine desire to improve your relationship. So as I mentioned before, sitting down with your partner and seeing what you want out of the future, and discussing how are we going to work towards that. And remembering that there may be setbacks as you get into it, but you want to maintain that hopeful outlook and set those goals that you're going to work towards together. You also have to show patience and understanding as you navigate and grow through this process. You have to remember that change takes time. And as you guys discuss it, and, you may ask your partner, it's easy if, initially we're not getting that, to get angry at them, to feel like, they didn't care, but talking to them and saying that, hey, this is what we kind of discussed. And I feel, again, using those I statements, that I feel like my needs or what I, asked you for isn't being respected. So continuing that communication and not attacking them first chance you get, because that's going to get really discouraging, So understand that, they might need help through that. So, be that help for each other, and that show that patience. And finally, you want to practice empathy and open communication throughout as you do this, and really delve into why you resonate with a specific language. And that is going to, when you know the why, what to do will become easier. So now there are a few things you want to remember. You'll have to use these languages and the meanings behind them to your advantage as you work through the challenges and find as a team. So find a method to love and fight that works for both of you. And recognizing that small gestures of love and thoughtful conflict resolution can make a big difference over time. So, while we might feel like, oh, it's just a small thing, it's not going to do much. At the end, all those little things, those little pieces of effort that we're putting in, that all will add up. And again, the key is to be open and honest in communication. I can't stress that enough. I might sound like a broken record, but this is what's going to allow for that mutual understanding and transparency. So, create a space where your partner feels comfortable to express their feelings. And when they feel safe, then they'll encourage you to do the same. Sometimes, it takes one person to get that started, which, sometimes may feel unfair, but it will help over time. And Amrit, yes, it's never me versus you, it's us versus the problem. Exactly. It's, you're a team. And it's crucial to remember also that every relationship is unique. There are no fixed rules for love and conflict. It's, you figure it out as you go. Quiz for conflict language. No, Denise, unfortunately, that quiz does not exist yet. But, just trying to sit with your partner and discuss how you can, learn from each other, from, past experiences, thinking back at that, and just asking them what you tend to use even. So does anyone have any final questions? I know we're a little bit over time. I'm so sorry for that, but if you need to leave, I totally understand. But if you want to stay back and chat, if you have any questions, even if you want some tailored advice, that you can come off chat or text, and I can definitely answer those questions. But just before we leave, I just want to end it with a quote. So, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. So to really help your relationship succeed, you have to continue to work as a team. And just as Amrit said, it's us versus the problem, not me versus you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful. I hope you can take back this information and really implement it and strengthen your relationship. And so if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type that in or come off mute. I'll be here for a while so you can ask. Thank you, guys. Any questions at all? Can you say the quote again? Yes. Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. Thank you all so much. Yes, the video is going to be available on YouTube probably tomorrow. And I'm so thankful that all of you joined, and please feel free to, book a session if you want to get into this more, to implement it, specifically to your relationship, get specific advice. Then feel free to, book a session or meet and greet with me whenever. Thank you, guys. I'm still going to stay on if anyone has any questions at all. Is it common to be a mixture of the conflict languages? Yeah, so, again, it depends. Everyone is different. We have, for example, with love languages, a different percentage. If you do that quiz, it might give you a different percentage of all the love languages. So similarly in conflict languages, depending on the fight, depending on how you feel in that moment, you might tend to use a different conflict language. Even with, different people, different partners, we might react differently to different conflicts. So, it's ever changing. There's no fixed rules. But yeah, again, the most important thing is just, understanding the why and working through that. More important than which one you use is why you use that, and how you can, try to open up that communication and to be more assertive, or at least implement some of the assertiveness traits. Yes, someone's raised their hand. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Mahnoor. I think for me, this was just so valuable. And I'm just it all makes sense. And I think the hardest thing for me is I've been in a relationship where we exhibit all of these for coming up 24 years, and a couple in another week. Like,
Wow.
we even begin, because we've been to Shift Club and we've gone to counseling therapy, and the counselor actually stopped, didn't like, he said, I can't help you guys. You don't want to help yourselves, right? So how can I help you? And like, that's the biggest struggle. It's like 24 years of butting heads, and like not wanting to make that move because it somehow feels like the other person won. And like how do you make even the most like minuscule move to like get you in that right direction when you have 24 years of a toxic behavior? Or is it just like, do you just move on and realize you can't fix it?
I mean, again, right, it depends on what you both want. If it is that, you've stayed together all this time trying to keep that relationship going, there is something there that, you want to work on, that you want to, rekindle that spark. So have that conversation, see what you both want out of this. What are your goals? And if that is to really improve that relationship, then you have to tell each other that, however much effort this takes to maybe unlearn our specific patterns that we tend to use, to put in more effort for a relationship. If that's important and we're willing to do it, then, nothing can stand in your way. Then it's you two doing whatever it takes. And, with this knowledge, when you really start implementing, showing love to them in how they want to be loved, that's going to increase that, that affection you have for each other. And then when it comes to fighting, when you understand why they're speaking a certain way or doing a certain thing, you're going to have more tolerance for that. And when it comes to it, when you're using that the assertive techniques and how to kind of express yourself while respecting them, then that's going to make resolving those conflicts a lot easier as well.